This is the portion of our practice that we can do on our off days, on our recovery days. It's a great way to get our full body involved in a practice that is very rejuvenating. So when we get back into our training week, the following day, we're really ready to go. And the design of this practice is to mobilize all the major muscles and joints of the body to get some blood flow moving and just continue this momentum that we've already developed in our practice. But it's not developed to be very strenuous. So let's keep that in mind as we move through this practice. As we begin this practice, we're going to start with a little bit of gentle whisper breath, this inhale and exhale through our nostrils. So I invite you to sit up nice and straight, relax your shoulders, soften your jaw a little bit, right? And just give yourself a full inhale and a full exhale. And just practice bringing that breath in, feeling yourself grounded to the floor. And then we're going to start to mobilize our spine a little bit. Keep your breath going. We're going to inhale, move forward and around. And as you exhale, move back, get your shoulders involved. It's important to remember that everybody's going to be different in every one of these poses. And I always like to say that there are plenty of opportunities for improvisation along this way. I'm going to kind of put you in the ballpark, and then you get the opportunity to kind of fine-tune this in a way that's going to work for your body. Okay, so just kind of move around, get your shoulders involved, get your hips and back involved, all this stuff. And then after you've gone this a couple times around, let's come to a hands and knees pose again. In this position, we're going to lean our chest forward, and then as you exhale, round your back. This is called cat-cow position. It does so many wonderful things for the body as far as mobilizing through the spine and all this kind of stuff that you've noticed I may have incorporated in all of the active recovery sessions because I think it does so many wonderful things. Next, we're going to push into a downward facing dog pose. So as you exhale, put your hands flat, curl your toes under, and relax your head in between your biceps. You might notice I start with my knees quite bent, and then I'm going to pedal my knees, straighten one leg, straighten the other leg as I move back and forth. This isn't supposed to be an exact science. This is about practice. A couple deep breaths. Again, if you're flexible and you can touch your heels to the floor, wonderful. Practice shaking your head no, practice shaking your head yes. With an inhale, we're going to bring our knees gently back down to the ground. Open our chest forward here like this. And with an exhale, we're going to round our spine and lower gently back into a child's pose. But we're not going to stay there long. We're going to inhale right back to hands and knees. And with an exhale, curl our toes under, lift back to a downward facing dog pose. Back to hands and knees pose as you breathe in. And child's pose again on your exhale. With another inhale, let's move back to our hands and knees pose, back into our downward facing dog. I'd like to hold this for a few breaths. Feel free to move your hips side to side. I like doing this. I'll point both my heels in one direction and pull my hips back for this great stretch along my side ribs for a breath or two in that way, and a breath or two over here on this way. Deep, slow inhales and exhales. When I'm ready to, I'm going to look forward, step my feet forward, and as I breathe in, I'm going to warm up my quads a little bit, bend my knees, open my heart forward. Exhale, straighten your legs, and round your back. And if your knees stay quite bent, that's cool. Inhale, bend your knees, and exhale, straighten it out, and fold forward. So, again, one of the ways that we are practicing is by focusing our attention on what our body's doing. In your mind, focus on the place that is feeling the most work, whether that's calves or hamstrings or spine or whatever, and keep your mind on that as you keep your breath moving slowly. Now as you breathe in, we're going to raise our arms wide and stand all the way up. A nice full big breath in. And on the exhale, we're going to put our hands together back down to our chest. Root your feet down. As you breathe in, raise your arms all the way up. Nice full breath in. And then with an exhale, slow motion, fold forward. Bend your knees as much as you need to. Inhale, lengthen your torso out to a flat spine. My legs are kind of straight, but you can do this with your knees bent, right? Exhale back to a forward fold pose. Use your legs to stand up. Inhale. And exhale, hands to heart. You notice I'm just keeping things gently moving. Inhale, bring it up. And exhale, fold forward. Inhale, lengthen out to a nice long flat spine. And on your exhale, back to a forward fold pose. Stand back up when you're ready. Nice big inhale. And then exhale, hands together, back down to your chest. Okay, now inhale, raise your arms back to the sky here. With an exhale, fold forward, just like we've been doing. When you breathe in again, flat spine. And this time, exhale, I'm going to step back into an upper push-up position. Like so. I'm going to bend my elbows and lower down. This is called Cobra. We're going to roll our shoulders back, open our chest. You can go low Cobra, or a little bit higher Cobra, or all the way to upward facing dog, where my thighs barely don't touch the floor, just palms of my hands and my feet. If that's too much on my back, I'm going to bring my hips back down to the floor. Next, on your exhale, we're going to curl our toes under and lift your hips back in the air. Downward facing dog pose. A couple solid breaths. Remember, bend your knees as much as you need to here. Look forward, breathe in. Step your feet forward as you exhale. Inhale, find a flat spine. Exhale, when you're ready, fold forward. Bend your knees a little, and inhale, stand all the way up. Exhale, hands together, back down to your chest. Now inhale, bend your knees a lot. Hold this pose for a little bit. We want to weight both equally through our heels and through the balls of our feet. Relax your shoulders down. And a great way to hold this pose is like this. Elbows bent at right angles, which opens up our chest. With an exhale, we're going to straighten up and fold forward. Inhale, nice long flat spine. Let's step back into our upper push-up pose. And then as you exhale, chaturanga, lower push-up. Move through Cobra or upward facing dog pose for a breath or so. And as you exhale, we're going to lift back, downward facing dog. Now when you breathe in, raise your right leg up in the air. Look forward and step your right foot forward between your hands. Organize your front knee so it's right over your ankle. Turn your back heel flat. Hands to your thighs. We're going to reach our arms up. And either hold this or bend your elbows at right angles. Okay? If your arms are tired, maybe you did a huge swim the other day, just let your arms relax to your side, but keep your breath moving. But typically, this is the way we hold a warrior pose. Now straighten up your front leg. Pivot so you're now sideways in your area, in your space. Arms wide like this. Pivot on your right heel and bend your right knee as you move into warrior two position. I want to keep my torso as upright as possible, arms reaching out, but then there's also a sense of relaxation through my shoulders. So I'm holding this pose, I've got my visual focus. I'm thinking about the part of my body that I'm feeling most, which is my front leg muscles. I'm putting all my attention right there and maintaining a softness through my breath. Now put your left hand to your left hip. Turn your right palm open and raise that arm to the sky. As you reach up, find a little side bend in your torso. I invite you to bend your right elbow. Put your right fingertips to your shoulder blade and bring your left hand up. Push your elbow into your hand as your hand pulls you into your elbow. This is a great stretch for our shoulders, but also we get to stretch our triceps, the muscles we don't get to stretch very often. Now let's straighten up our front leg. Come forward. Put your left hand to your left hip. We're going to move toward triangle. Lean forward, big breath in, and then exhale, hand to your shin. Grab your block if you want to. You can put that there for a little bit of support. Okay? Then raise your left arm to the sky. If you don't need a block, you can put your hand maybe down to the floor on the outside edge of your foot. Give yourself a couple of slow, deep breaths here. As you exhale, let's look down to the floor. Bend our front knee. Step both feet back. You can either stay in downward facing dog pose or move through what's called a vinyasa, where we go through chaturanga, cobra or up dog, and downward facing dog pose. So then from down dog, we're going to inhale and raise our left leg in the air. Step your left foot forward. Organize this again. Take your time. We're in no rush. We're going to inhale, raise our arms to the sky, warrior one. After a couple deep breaths in Warrior 1, we're going to switch to Warrior 2. I'm going to straighten my front leg. So instead of facing my back toward you, I'm going to do a little turn. You can stay where you're at. But now my left knee is bent. I'm going to open this up to Warrior 2 pose. Okay, and relax my shoulders down some. Practice finding my focus. I love the idea here. It's like a warrior who has a bow and arrow. I'm pulling this back, and just like I've got my eye on the prize here, I've got that thing focused straight forward, and I'm right in the moment, relaxed and at ease. Put your right hand to your hip. Turn your left palm open and raise that left arm to the sky. Start to lean back a little bit. And then if it serves you, bend that left elbow. Put it on your shoulder blade as you bring your right hand up to your elbow. Push your hand into your elbow and your elbow back into your hand. A couple of solid breaths. I'm going to go back to Warrior 2 pose. Straighten up that front leg. Now spread your toes, lean forward, and put your hand down to your shin or down to a block if you had that thing. Fingertips to the floor. Pull your shoulder back, and then raise your right arm to the sky, triangle pose. Okay? Now if you're super tight in your hamstrings, don't worry about coming this far. Put your hand up either on your thigh or your shin or whatever. I do want to have a front leg that's straight, but not so straight that it locks out my knee. You know what I'm saying? Last big breath like this. And on the exhale, put my hands to the floor. Either down dog or we'll move through our vinyasa again. Couple of deep breaths. You know, and because this is our off day, where we're not trying to really go too crazy, give yourself several breaks here. Like bring your knees down to the floor. Give yourself a moment, roll into child's pose. Take a couple deep breaks, deep breaths. Relax here. And then when it feels right, we'll move our way back forward to our hands and knees pose. Back into a downward facing dog position. Okay, so I'm going to step my left foot forward and come back up into a standing pose like this. Okay, arms wide again. First I'm going to move to my right side. I'm going to bend my front knee back into Warrior 2, but this time I'll put my right forearm on my right thigh and extend my left bicep across my ear. This is called side angle pose. If that feels good, I'm going to hang out right there. If I'm feeling I want to go a little bit deeper, I could put my right hand down to the block or to the floor. There's also another great way to open up my chest by bringing this hand behind me, holding onto my hip, or even swinging this hand underneath. Careful of your shoulders and open this thing up toward the ceiling. It's called bound version of side angle. Great opener for the shoulders. It can be kind of intense. Okay, we'll come back out of this. And then, again, one more time, we'll hit this triangle pose as I open this up, raise that arm to the sky. We're trying to find that perfect balance between steadiness and ease. So there's some intensity going on here, but I'm mitigating that with my easy, full breath. So I never feel winded. I never feel like I'm overdoing it in any of this. Kind of find that level 7 rule. If level 10 were most intense, I'm going to hang out at level 7. So I'll come back out of this, straighten it out, open up wide again. Now this is my template. I want to stay upright. I'm going to pivot on my other heel and move into Warrior 2 pose. Okay, just for a couple of breaths before I bring this forearm to my thigh. I'm going to extend my bicep across my ear. Right? If I wanted to grab my block again, I could. I can place my fingertips to the floor. A couple of breaths. Now again, if this is too intense, give yourself the permission to be exactly the way you are. Right? This is not our time to overdo it with another workout. This is a way of recovering in a way that's going to feel great. If it serves you, just bring this hand behind you. Open it up. Or swing that forearm underneath your thigh. Be careful of your shoulders. A couple of solid deep breaths here. I'm trying to turn my whole torso toward the ceiling using some of my core strength. Eventually I'll come back to Warrior 2. Straighten this baby out as I lean forward, back into my triangle pose. Triangle take 2 on this side. A couple of deep breaths. Now, my front leg is straight, but I'm still keeping my quads strong. Okay? As I contract my quads, it gives a message to my hamstrings that they can loosen up. Okay, so it's a great way of getting a deeper stretch is to make sure its opposite muscle is contracted. Okay, then with an exhale, bring both hands back down to the floor. Find my way through my vinyasa if I care to. On my way back to a downward facing dog pose. A couple of deep breaths. So I'm going to bring my knees down to the floor, cross my ankles behind me, come to a seated position, okay? And then from here, as I'm holding on the backs of my legs, I'm going to lean back onto my sacrum, lift up through the crown of my head, roll my shoulders back, engage my core. This is called boat pose. Lift my feet up. So I can hang here with my hands behind my legs, or reach my arms forward, lift up through the crown of my head. Or if I'm feeling really vivacious today, I can straighten my legs in this pose too. Okay, if that's more than I bargained for, I can always come back to this now. Maybe another deep breath here. From here, we got three options. Option number one is just put my hands behind me, open up my chest, and breathe. Option number two, keeping my knees bent, but lifting my hips up, pull my head back. This is a great stretch for the front anterior portion of my deltoid, my shoulder muscles. Or version three, extend your legs straight, lift your hips all the way up in the air, tilt your head back. As you exhale, we're going to bring our hips back down to the floor. Take two for this boat thing. So feet come down, hold the backs of your legs, sit up nice and straight, shoulders roll back. And again, if this is all I bargained for today, hang out here. Keep it easy. Save your energy for what you're going to do tomorrow in your training run, right? Or bike or swim, whatever you got. Okay? Or we got this thing. Or maybe this time we hold onto our big toes and begin to straighten our legs some. Use some of your core strength to keep your torso upright. Then after a few breaths, feet to the floor. Again, we got number one, or number two, or number three, as we pull this thing back. A couple of deep, solid breaths here. Good. Bring your hips back down to the floor. Okay. So from here, let's roll forward to a standing on our knees pose. And if this is sensitive, I might grab my blanket and put that underneath my knees like this. I'm going to curl my toes under, put my hands on my lower back, roll my shoulders back, draw my tailbone down. This is called camel pose. And lift up my sternum, call that good. And then from here, I'm going to slowly bring my hands back if that feels good. Push down as I lean my hips forward, lift my chin up, tilt my head back. Now, if that's too much, hands to lower back again. If you could go deeper, put the tops of your feet down to the floor. Go all the way into this thing. A couple of deep breaths. Remember, this is about what feels good. It doesn't matter what you can do, it's how you feel while you're doing it. And then with hands to lower back, we'll bring it back up. And I'm just going to curl into a ball and relax here. I like to visit pigeon pose, one of my favorite poses to open up these muscles in the outside of the hips, the external hip rotators, particularly the piriformis muscle. And there's a couple variations for pigeon. I'm going to start off in a downward facing dog pose. Pick up my right leg, bend that knee open to the sky, and I'm going to place my right knee up between my hands. So my knee moves close toward my wrist. Okay, and then I'm going to calibrate the pose. Maybe I lean over under my hip and bring my heel away from my groin for a more intense twist or a stretch, or toward the groin for a less intense. And then organize this thing. Okay, I want my right hip to be touching the floor. If I'm tight in that hip, my hip's up here, grab your block or something, your blanket, your foam roller, put that underneath your hip. Then try to organize that back foot so the toes, big toe and little toe, press equally into the floor. Then from here, we'll start to walk our elbows forward. Okay, so that's one version. And if that's too much for your knee, then remove the block, lower down onto your back, and do this guy. We'll reach through, flex our toes, and then pull this gently back toward the chest. Okay, so whichever version you got, give yourself like 6 or 7 long breaths here. The more time there, the better, you know. And then if you're on your back, you can just switch sides and do the other side for, 6 or 7 long breaths. Or, pigeon pose. I've said this in previous sections, but you might find yourself more flexible on one side than the other. And that isn't necessarily anything to fix. It's just interesting to notice. Over time, that might fix itself. But again, our job is just to notice where our situation is. Try relaxing your shoulders, relaxing your face. Give yourself a couple of deep breaths. And after we've been balanced on this side and the other side, we're going to bring everything back up and find ourselves in a seated position with our feet together. I like to do this pose sitting up on a blanket. In this pose, I'm going to sit up nice and straight, and bring the soles of my feet together. Nice full breath in, and then exhale, I'm going to lean forward. And relax. Shoulders are going to relax a bit. Face is going to relax a little bit. You can put your hands here. You can also hold on to your feet. And again, I just want to provide a lot of variation so that everybody can choose the version of the pose that's going to work right for them, right? After we've had a good couple of breaths here, let's come back upright to a comfortable seated position, whatever that looks like for you. I'm going to put one foot in front of the other and just start a couple of these shoulder rolls. Inhale as the elbows lift up. Exhale as the elbows pull together. Inhale, bring this up. Bring it back together, back down around. And after you've gone several times around in one direction, let's switch and go the opposite direction. A lot of what we're practicing isn't necessarily only physical. It's about keeping our mind in the game. There's so many million things we could be thinking about for the moment. But what I'm focusing on right now is just simple shoulder rolls. After you've gone through the shoulders a little bit, inhale as you tilt your ear toward one side. Exhale as you tilt your ear toward the other side. We're just going to move back and forth like this. Now see what you can do about moving your head side to side, but keeping your shoulders without moving. They're just kind of staying there locked in place. And then after you've done that several times, we're going to turn our head this way. And maybe choose an exhale, turn it in the other way. And we're just moving side to side like this. Then from here, we're going to extend both of our legs out straight. It's a great place to grab your foam roller, put that underneath your knees, particularly if you're a little bit tight. And just start to walk your hands forward. Relax your head and your shoulders into this thing. If that sort of takes all the love out of the pose, before you loved it and now you don't love it so much, just extend your legs out, hang out here. A couple of long breaths. Let it be organic. What I mean by that is your pose is a living thing. As you inhale, you're going to sort of come out of the pose a little bit. And as you exhale, you're going to find yourself moving a little bit deeper into the pose. Another big inhale. And exhale a little bit deeper. So to finish up this portion of our practice, let's come to a comfortable resting pose. I'm going to suggest we grab our blanket and put that down so our head can rest on our blanket. Grab your foam roller, put that underneath your knees. I invite you to just lie down on your back and relax. We'll close our eyes. And I invite you to let your breath be whatever feels natural and easy, totally relaxed, and bring all of your attention to just your breath. Just feel it moving in and out, and then start to scan your body from top to bottom. And let that be your focus. Let your body relax and sink into the floor. And this would be a great time to insert some of the mindfulness portion in the audio section of Prana Try. So you can just hang out here for several breaths. Great place to just relax and close your eyes. Thank you for joining me in Prana Try today as we've explored the principles of yoga, how they can improve and enhance our experience with triathlons. Happy racing, everybody. Namaste.